The Lion King was a movie created in 1994, which became very, very popular. It is about a young cub named Simba whose father dies and he gets kicked out of his homeland. Eventually, through various events, he returns to his homeland and becomes a king.
I'm Francie, and I'm going to be talking about the cinematic elements in the movie The Lion King. Cinematic elements contribute to enhancing intercultural relationships in the movie The Lion King. One example of a cinematic element that is used are the different angle shots. A high angle shot represents the minority groups. These high angle shots make the character seem smaller in a scene. As an example of a high angle shot would be a scene with Mufasa and Scar, where Scar is shot at a high angle, making him seem smaller and inferior to the king Mufasa. The low angle shots represent the majority, making a character bigger than the others in the scene and the audience. An example would be the opening scene with Simba at Pride Rock, where Rafiki is lifting him over the kingdom, representing that he is superior to all the animals and all the animals in the scene.
I'm Leah, and I'm going to be talking about the nonverbal communication in The Lion King. The major scene where I saw a lot of nonverbal communication was when they were saying, "Can you feel the love tonight?" There are a lot of interactions between the lions. You can just tell the bond between the lions by especially eye contact with them. You could tell this bond even without the music, even if it wasn't playing, because their bond and interactions with their eyes were so strong. Other nonverbals within the movie are just basically when characters are excited about something or happy, they raise their head and you can just tell that they're really into what is going on. That is the same for the opposite as well, except for when they're sad, they lower their head and you can just tell by how they look that they're upset.
Hi, I'm Samantha Heskey, and I will be talking a little bit about power and its impact on the movie The Lion King. In The Lion King, there are many shifts of power, which can be you can really notice these shifts because it's good leadership, bad leadership, and then good leadership again. For example, Mufasa was first, and everything was bright and vibrant and happy, because he kept the circle of life balance. So he kept a balance of power. Like when Mufasa told Simba that they need to respect the antelope, he said, "But we eat them." And Mufasa said, "When we die, our bodies become the grass, and the antelope eat the grass." So it's kind of a symbol to show like how power needs to be balanced. But then when Scar used manipulation over Simba and Mufasa to take power, he was unable to keep that balance. He became more of a dictatorship where his voice was the only one that mattered and was the only voice that was heard. But at the end of the movie, it goes back to everyone rising up again against the evil force, Scar.
Hey, my name's Gina, and I'll be talking a little bit about the gender roles that are portrayed in the movie The Lion King. We first start off seeing Mufasa standing on top of Pride Rock looking down at the animals, and this basically shows that he is ruler and king and has the dominant force over the land. And then as that happens, the camera goes back to where the lionesses are, and Sarabi is taking care of her newborn son, Simba, who also, instead of just being the king's son, is getting his role as their future king and will have to take on his dominance that his father has had. As he grows up, he and his friend Nala go off to an elephant graveyard where they run into some trouble. And within this, Simba takes up more of a masculinity, even though he's young, and tries to scare off the hyenas with roaring and saving Nala. But even though he's young and this didn't work out, his dad ends up being there to save him, and he later explains to his father that he was only trying to be brave, and that he thought that if he went out to find trouble, he would then prove to everybody he was as courageous as his father. Throughout, he also gets this kind of masculinity taken out by Nala. She and him are wrestling a couple times, and we see that she ends up pinning him in the end, which kind of shows more of a feminine side and more weak. And also Nala shows that he isn't as strong as he thought he was by when he is reminded of his past. He shows more emotion, and in most cultures, males that are showing emotion aren't as likely to have it.
My name is Michael, and I'll be speaking about Simba's identity and how it transforms throughout the movie. Simba begins life as a cub. He has a very childlike identity, stereotypically childlike, and this identity persists until his father's death, which is the blame for that death was pinned on him by his uncle Scar, even though his uncle Scar killed his father. And so Simba runs away, and he eventually comes across two creatures who sort of adopt him and teach him to be more gypsy-like, not really worry about anything, and home is where you are. And he lives that way for some years until he grows up, and by happenstance he runs into Nala, his old playmate from when he was younger, and Nala tells him that his homeland has been desecrated by his uncle Scar. And this really puts conflict into Simba because he knows that he should be king. So he goes through this other identity crisis, whether or not he should stay and be a wanderer and be who he's been for the last few years, or if he should go home and assume the identity which was truly meant for him. And through some visions as well as some other elements, he eventually decides to go home and assume the identity of ruler. And when he goes home, he reaffirms this identity when he defeats his evil uncle and takes control.
Alright, so we can easily see that there are a lot of intercultural communication terms throughout The Lion King. We saw identity, gender roles, power, nonverbals, and also the editing. So thank you so much for listening to our presentation.
Yeah.